Have you seen these?
Well, it's great to see people without masks. That's the first time, I didn't.
Yeah.
Have you seen these?
Well, it's great to see people without masks. That's the first time.
Well, I see Fred all,
Live well, dry.
we're all here.
Yeah, it was really easy.
Oh. Good evening. It's October 17th. This is the Beach Advisory Committee meeting for October. It's about 6 o'clock, so we're going to call it to order. Why don't we say who is present? Barry, start down there.
I beg your pardon?
Introduce yourself. We'll come this
Hi.
way.
Hi, I'm Barry Engel, and I'm on the Beach Advisory Committee representing the oceanfront owners.
John Dykstra, representing the Board of Selectmen.
Paul Hogan, I'm chair. I'm a backlotter.
Carol Sherman, I'm secretary and I'm an oceanfront owner.
Pam Sikansky, I'm the vice chair and I'm a backlot owner.
Fred is trying to get Wi-Fi figured out wherever he's traveling, so he's not with us yet. Thanks to everybody who came tonight. Thanks if you're watching at home or on Zoom.
How many do we have watching?
Oh, good question. How many do we have on Zoom?
We have 8 attendees right now.
Thank you.
Excellent.
First, we need to approve the minutes, which Carol circulated twice.
Yep. They made
Um,
the minutes.
Any questions, comments? If not, a motion to approve them?
So
From
moved.
from
So-
Carol?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Pam? Thank you. All in favor, raise your hands. We're all here. Thank you. Next on the agenda is comments from the public for anything that's not on our agenda tonight. If we'll go to the room first, see if there's any comments, and if not, if anybody is raising their hand. Is that how we're doing it, Dave?
Yes.
Okay. Anyone in the room have any comments? We do. Richard is going,
Name and serial number.
yeah, introduce yourself.
Richard Driver, Goose Rocks.
Thanks for coming.
So, I was hoping that Justin Grimes would be here tonight. I'm not sure, maybe he's
On Zoom?
on Zoom,
Not by name.
not by name. Okay, so here's a question that I'm sure you can't answer. Maybe John Dykstra will have some information, but Ocean Woods has been closed for 3 years. Periodically on their website, There's a promise of reopening the next season. The building is in disrepair. It's an eyesore. Now there's another promise to open in 2023 after substantial renovation. But there is no application before the planning board. So what is going on with Ocean Woods? It certainly has an impact on the community of Goose Rocks. And they did have an application in the past, which was certainly inconsistent with our ordinance. 30 cottages and a new restaurant on a property that is zoned residential, and what's there right now, when it was operating, was non-conforming. So the question is, what is going on with Ocean Woods? And I believe the public has a right to know. I don't know how many of you monitor their website, but it says temporarily closed, and this new promise of reopening in 2023. And hopefully you can pose this question to Mr. Grimes if he shows up as I assume he periodically does to your meeting.
Thank you,
John,
Richard.
do you have any?
I really have nothing I can add. I know what you know.
Okay, no application to code enforcement?
Not to my knowledge, but that's just to my personal knowledge. I can't speak for the town on that.
Yeah,
Right.
I have no idea. Thank you, Richard.
Thanks.
Is there anyone with a hand up?
There is not. Is anybody on Zoom wishing to speak? If so, raise your virtual hand.
I see none.
Okay. Then we'll go to committee reports. Fred is only with us for a short while. Did he join?
I do not see Fred.
Okay. Fred, when you, he wanted his report to go first, but he's not here. So Fred, when you get on, text me or make yourself known, raise your hand. Barry, do you want to go?
Sure.
Barry has some traffic safety
Thank you, Paul.
update.
So I will give a brief update. We very much appreciated the fact that Chief Sanford had expanded the use of traffic studies in the Goose Rocks area a number of years ago, probably 8, if my memory serves me right. There was New Biddeford Road and Wildwood. We asked him to repeat those two, as well as adding Dyke Road and the west end of Kings Highway. He was kind enough, he got those done late summer. We're talking about sort of the last 2 weeks of August, the first week of September. Some of it was a weekend, some of it wasn't. It's not completely consistent, but given that time of year, it really doesn't make a whole lot of difference, a Saturday versus a Thursday. There were a lot of people there. I'm just going to give you a few sort of takeaways from it, but, you know, the committee is free to make your own takeaways if you'd like. The first is that in all 4 instances, there was less than 1% of the traffic that would have been considered enforceable by law enforcement. So there was not a lot of speeding. There were some, but we're talking about a relatively small number, which was interesting. And Chief Sanford explained it to me in saying, much of it is perception. You know, when you're standing there and a big truck goes by, it appears to be going much faster than it often is. And these facts really do support that view. The second takeaway that, you know, I would say, Dyke Road for the 4 or 5 day period had roughly 24,000 cars going back and forth.
In 5 days.
In Dyke Road was from the 1st to the 6th of September. 24,000.
5,000 a day.
Yeah, Dyke Road. New Bedford, the other entry into the beach, had 8,000 also for a 4 or 5 day period. So, relatively speaking, Dyke Road is handling the bulk of the traffic as far as that goes.
That makes sense, because it splits there. It goes
Yes,
Right.
and everybody knows that access, and not surprising. What I did find surprising was the west end of Kings Highway had almost 10,000 cars, 9,700.
How far down was the meter? Do you know how far?
It
down?
was,
Right at the
I saw it,
beginning.
yes.
It had to be right at the beginning.
It was
So
at the
really
beginning.
got
It was just past that
Pump station?
pump station, maybe a couple of pulls past there, but certainly the first quarter.
Did that include a weekend? That's
Yes.
West, that was the
26th and 30th?
Friday to Wednesday.
Friday to Wednesday. That's
So that was
unbelievable.
the weekend before Labor Day.
Right.
Yep.
Busy weekend, but that week is busy, as we all know. A lot of traffic on the west end of Kings Highway. The good news is it wasn't going that quickly,
Right.
but there was a lot of traffic. So I just wanted to point out those things. We're going to do a little bit more study on this. Our committee is going to be getting together, looking at it, perhaps trying to draw some conclusions. I do think it's really good that we have a benchmark. Next year, if we do look at it again, you can really start to see year over year, is there a pattern here? Is there a little bit more that we can do? So we will consider that,
And hopefully try to do it in the same time period if they possibly could.
yes.
That would just help reduce a variable.
You take away one obstacle for sure. Yeah, I mean, you make some conclusions here by looking at it, but it's not, no one's making huge decisions on this.
Barry,
Pam?
can you refresh my memory? What is the speed limit in those various places? Is it the same in all of them? I just don't even
No,
remember.
it's not. So that's a very good point. So Dyke Road is a 25 mile. That's
Okay.
where they had it. It's 30 at the very
Yep.
beginning and then drops. He had the test was at 25. The west end of Kings Highway is 20.
Yep.
New Bedford Road, it doesn't say, but I think it's 25.
25, and then it goes up to 30 or 35, way up.
Yeah, and Wildwood, it says here, using the legal speed limit of 25
Right.
is what we have at Wildwood.
Okay.
So, interesting.
Yeah.
A couple of the things that I will just mention here, the striping, which was something that was approved by the Board of Selectmen. The striping was supposed to be done in June. They didn't have sufficient paint, owing to whatever reasons. It was supposed to be done again. We committed to do it in September. It still isn't done. I was in contact this morning with Chris Simeone. He's saying it's next on the agenda when they get to our area. It looks like October. But he would not give me a firm date, but we are following that up. We'll see where we come out on that. The other couple of notes that I'm just going to mention, the contractors and landscapers during the summer, the observations on those, no factual data. There were a number of landscapers who really cooperated and parked in private driveways instead of on the street. There were a couple of outsiders. Next summer, we'll get after those, but a couple of laggards. The contractors were harder to enforce because they're not the regulars that come every Friday to do someone's lawn. But, it's a plumber who's coming on a Tuesday random and may not have been at the beach all summer and didn't have the opportunity. But there was definitely an improvement, but we still have a little bit more to do. And finally, the signage on the corner, and I'm just raising this because I do believe we should bring it back up to the Board of Selectmen. We had asked that there be the fact that there's only 4 parking spots and we're looking at this very high volume headed out to the west end. At the time, one of the Board of Selectmen said there are too many signs there. As of this morning, when I passed by, there's one that says Community House, and there's a second that says Firewood, pointing the other way. And I don't believe Firewood is an official town sign. And I do believe Community House you could get on Google. What you can't get on Google is where are the parking spots.
Sure.
So it is something that again, we're thinking about summer 2023. Does sound a little funny to say that, but we'll put that back on the agenda at some point.
I had forgotten, was it under this committee's recommendation that a sign be put and the
Board of
Board of
Select-
Selectmen said there are too many signs?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, there was there was, I think, there was a, no, you weren't there.
You were on
It was before.
this committee.
Yeah, I think there was a bit of a controversy because to say there was no parking there was not accurate.
I
There were
think
a
if we
few spots.
present it in a way that is perhaps clearer,
I see.
Right.
with some factual data
Right,
behind
yeah,
it,
now we have data.
we can do that.
That's an incredible amount of cars for,
Yeah,
okay, great.
that's it, Paul.
Any
Thank
questions
you.
on that?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Fred is on Zoom, so we're going to go to him for the communication report.
Okay, Fred, unmute himself.
There we go. How's that? Is that better?
It's good.
Can you hear me?
Perfect, yep.
Yes? Okay. For those of you that can't lip read, yeah? Okay. All right. So,
Whoops.
His bandwidth is low. There's
You
nothing
turn
I
off
can
the
do about
video.
it.
If he turns off his video, it's gonna.
on the Communications Committee,
Hey, Fred.
Fred,
Paul has arranged a meeting. I'm sorry?
can you please
It
turn
says that
off?
my internet connection is unstable. Is
Yeah.
that better?
No, turn off your video, Fred. We need your voice, but we don't need the video, and that's going to help with the bandwidth.
I can take a hint.
There you go, much better.
That's the nicest way anybody's told me I'm not good looking. So, can you hear me okay now?
Perfect.
Hello?
Yes,
Yeah, perfect.
great.
You can, okay, great. Do I look better? All right. So, at any rate, I just saw an email back from Lori this afternoon that she's available sometime next week to meet. So we will hopefully be able to get in front of her. And what we're looking to do is reduce the number of signs and to consolidate them as best we can. One thing we really need to do and the committee's worked on is to try and eliminate anything that's on the current collection of signs that isn't enforced. There's no sense in posting something if we can't or if the town won't enforce it. So the whole idea would be to put as much as we can in a simple fashion on one sign, but these signs would probably be at each one of the major entrances to the beach. Okay, each one of the public entrances. Okay, so the idea would be to consolidate things there, and one of the main things I think we need to sort out is it would be ideal if we could have an interchangeable panel like they do on the water quality sign right now that would allow us to put up the rules for dogs on the beach for that particular time period rather than for the entire year like it is now. That way, nobody would have to spend any time trying to figure out, can they take their dog on the beach or not? When does it have to be leashed and all that? So if we can come up with a way to do that on the signs, and I'm confident that we can, that I think it would save a lot of problems. There's a lot of confusion, So those are the main things that we're going to do with it. Are there any questions about that?
John?
Yeah, I really like the idea of having the interchangeable sign to be able to specify just a single rule for each time period for the dog. That makes a lot of sense. I just feel we ought to be a little careful in what we remove. There are things that are easily enforced, there are things that are not that easy to enforce, but having them on the sign, it just helps remind people that, could you give me an example? Are you thinking like, what is something you think you would remove from the sign because you feel it can't be enforced?
Things like, not launching boats from the beach. I mean, where would somebody even do that if they wanted to?
Well, we've had examples of people rolling down skidoos down dike and launching them. We'd certainly like to be able to stop that. Having posted a sign would give us the authority to stop that.
Yeah, okay.
So I think there's some things that you want to just have on record so that when you need to enforce them, at least they can't say nobody told me. You don't want it 5 miles long to be sure, but I think we ought to be a little cautious on what we remove. That's my only thought.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would just add, I think there's like a three-legged stool, what goes on the QR code, what goes on a brochure, and what goes on a sign. We have the brochures at each entrance. And so the question is, do we want to continue the brochures? Is that still meaningful? Would a QR code on the sign be as effective and give the notice? And the other comment I would make is, the town has certain contractual obligations to, under the beach use agreement and under the ordinance, that it's required to enforce certain things. And therefore, as John said, it may be very difficult to enforce some things, but, we need to look at the agreement and see what's the priority there and what's there are beach rules, there are town ordinances, and then there's the obligations of the town under the agreement. So it's complicated.
Yeah, I'm sure some of the things are, have legal implications, like what you just said, John, about launching, jet skis and stuff like that, could be obviously problematic of people, taking their trailers and trucks and everything else. And I guess I hadn't thought about that before, but I guess you could easily drive a vehicle down the Dyke Road entrance, couldn't you?
Well, they just wheel them on big inflatable wheels too. You can just push it.
Yeah, and as much as we need, I'd like to, eliminate as much as we can. I think we need to be more specific about no motorized vehicles, because I've seen kids riding electric bikes on the beach, and I don't think they consider them to be motorized. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that seems to be,
Electric bike's going to be interesting all around.
yeah, that seems to be a new gray area. I've seen people flying, down the beach.
Yeah.
Well, electric skateboards are the same
Yeah.
thing, yeah. It's a whole new,
Yeah, and that would be easy enough to do, just, including electric or however we do it, battery powered, But I think we can do it and come up with a design that would be much more appealing and consolidate everything. Use symbols as much as we can. I know last year we showed examples that of pictures I took, like from Hampton Beach. Not that we want to be Hampton Beach by any means, mind you, but as much as we can get away with using symbols instead of words, or minimize the words with symbols, would be great,
For sure. Anything else? Anybody here? Thank you,
And
Fred.
Paul, while I have you, I was going to respond to Lori, but I remember our conversation. Would you like to respond to her?
Sure.
Or is it okay if I do?
You can, just say when.
Setting up the meeting.
Yeah. It's fine. Thank you, Fred.
That's fine. Okay, that's about it.
Okay. Natural resources. I'll do a little bit of the report. We took in the stakes and twine on Saturday. And I wanted to thank Beth Ramsey and John Crowder and John next to me and Greg Burns and Fred, who, excuse me, Fred Steffen, yeah, who showed up. The kayak racks are back at the trust. Everything else is in Greg Burns' pickup truck waiting to be moved. He was heading out of town and didn't have time to store them for the winter. And the posts were in pretty good shape. We found some other ones that were hidden in a place that we hadn't taken in, so I think we'll be in good shape for next year. And that's all I have. John, we did, John and I, mostly John, I was sidekick, reshot the dunes. You want to talk about that a bit?
yeah, you might know that we've started a program where we're flying the East Arc, so basically everything from Dinghy Point to the Little River, as well as the very far western arc, covering the sands in front of the sandbar of the Batson River, with the intent of being able to measure dune loss and dune growth. So we fly in the spring. We flew April 24th, I think it was. It was early in 24th of April. And then, as Paul said, we flew again on the 28th, but that turned out to be a little too early. And the fact is that the drone system is using visible light, obviously, to create the orthos, to create the 3D models. And that the light reflects off the first surface. Well, in April, the first surface with the leaves off the vegetation that covers the dune was the sand surface. In September, with the leaves on, it was the leaves. And so we had an extra 6 inches or so, looking like the dune had grown up 6 inches. Well, obviously not. So what I plan to do is I'm going to wake up Paul some morning, although he's up before I am, in late November, and we'll fly it again. It's only a $50 commitment to pay for the processing of the ortho online. So that's something that can be done pretty easily. Just from my looking at the imagery we did have, it's pretty clear that the dunes have grown quite a bit in along the east arc. On the west side, it's a little more difficult to make a call, but in the east, just preliminary looking at it, and it makes sense. We haven't had any large storms that have reached with any erosive power the dune edge, and that's a blessing over the past 12 months. This is a normal cycle where big storms like we had in 18 remove a chunk of dune, and then over the period of 5 to 10 years, that dune will build back up, and we're seeing that process occurring now. The only real problem will be if storms do become more frequent and we start to lose dune before it has a chance to restore. But as of now, the process is going along as normal, and so that's a good thing.
Thank you, John. And Carol, as an end-of-year
Yes.
Plover report?
I do. I have the final Plover report from the Maine Audubon. 2022 was another record-breaking year for the piping plovers in Maine, with 140 pairs nesting on Maine beaches, fledging 252 chicks. These numbers were up from 125 pairs fledging 213 chicks in 2021, and 98 pairs fledging 199 chicks in 2020. Goose Rocks fledged 24 chicks this year. Just for comparison, Algonquin fledged 35 and Wells fledged 40, which is an all-time high, I think, for all Maine, in fact, all beaches. This season's success, they said, is a result of the incredible work of biologists, landowners, volunteers, town employees, and beachgoers. Despite the growth seen in Maine, there are still only 2,000 pairs of piping plovers estimated to nest along the Atlantic coast, and not all areas are seeing similar success. For this reason, it's important that the Maine's piping plovers continue to prosper and contribute to the international recovery goals for the species. That was from Maine. This is a little FYI, since I can't seem to throw away anything. I was looking back and found some old records, just to let you know. In 2012, we had 10 fledglings. 2019, we had 11. 2020, we had 13. 2021, we had 22. And then this year, we had 24. So
Wow.
at one time, and this is approximate when I first started this, which was about 23 years ago, a quarter of all the piping plovers that fledged were from Goose Rocks Beach. So if we had kept that same position, we would have fledged 63 chicks this year. So that's Carol Sherman, that's not from Maine Audubon. So this is from Maine Audubon. Lease Terns final report for 2022. Maine's lease terns have had a challenging year. This year, 6 sites hosted nesting colonies: Lodholm Beach, Goose Rocks Beach, Stratton Island, Higgins Beach, and Seawall Beach. The early June nest census resulted in 277 nests, the third highest count since monitoring began in 1977. Despite having a high number of nesting pairs, only an estimated 40 fledglings were produced this season. This is the second lowest productivity rate recorded. Goose Rocks did not have any nesting pair during the June census, but a small group of 5 pairs were observed nesting there a few weeks late. One chick was able to fledge in spite of the skunks, raccoons, and red fox. That's all I have.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. Thanks for everything on that. Moving right along, we'll go to old business. There were a couple of issues that have been around a meeting or two. The first is the challenge of gear being left where it shouldn't be on the beach, boats and chairs and umbrellas, etc. John's had a couple of conversations with Lori and the chief, I guess.
Yep. Yep.
So,
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
to just address that, I think the principal concern on both Chief Stafford's, or mainly on the chief's part, is the continuing complication to know which material is able to be there under the auspice of the beach use agreement, which is not, which might be there because a beach use agreement person allowed somebody to store it there. It is a complication that makes removal of the items. One can tag, but to remove the items, it opens up some difficulty to moving in that direction. So given that, one thing that Lori and I were kicking around is for us as a committee to try to articulate what our vision is for personal watercraft specifically, kayaks, canoes, paddle boards on Goose Rocks Beach. I did a little survey on the 24th of August, and I counted 191 such watercraft. 16 and I only went as far as the Bartlett Street, so I did not go down the mid arc or the western arc. I was just kind of just past Dinghy Point, and there were 16 on the rocks there. There were 36 on Dinghy Point, and the rest of them, the majority of them on racks, but a good number of them off the racks, stored up along the dune line. And I think stored is the principal word here. The question we might want to ask is it appropriate for Goose Rocks to be where people store their watercrafts? It appears that because it appears that folks are bringing them down. And I think I would probably be doing this myself. So this is not said as a criticism. I think it's kind of the natural thing to do. You bring it down once, you can lock it on a rack, and you unlock it when you want to use it, and there they're stored. But the number has been increasing. I did this survey so we can do it again next year and have some hard data. But I just, from my visual, it has been increasing each year. And one thought is we'll add more kayak racks. Well, it's just going to increase even more. So I thought I'd just throw that out to the group as a comment to get some discussion going. What is our vision? Is it appropriate? I mean, is it okay? Is it something we feel is appropriate for people to simply store their kayak at the dune's edge and use it whenever they wish? Or do we want to move closer to where people are bringing in a kayak, using it, and removing it from the beach? So that's my thought on kayaks.
I just have one observation, because it seems as though, especially at high tide, there's less and less space at the beach, and I think it's frustrating to go down, and half the space at that point is taken up with these assorted items. And as a backlot owner, I live back behind the community house, and we take our kayaks out, we put them on wheels, we walk down, we kayak for the day, and we bring them back. And it's been that way since my kids were 6 and 8. They know that's the drill. They would never dream of leaving them down there.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be a simple matter if we didn't have a beach use agreement and ordinance, which gives 65 property owners unique, particular rights. If we were just a committee dealing with this problem, it would be easy to, I think, well, it probably wouldn't be easy, but you might be able to develop a consensus because it's a less complicated situation.
Well,
If the entire thing were a public beach, which it isn't, it's public beach, private property, and public has rights on the private property
Right.
for
Right, and right-
access and.
right, so one thought would be to have the beach use agreement folks tag, have the town provide or someone provides a indication that
Sure.
that this is BSU property, our owner's property, and there it can be. And that's great. Without that, then it would need to be removed. It's a thought.
I really like that
I
idea.
think so too.
And it sort of goes to the, right now you get the beach sticker for parking if
Right,
you're a
right.
resident.
Right.
You get one of these, you slap it on your kayak, and it's left alone. It's very easy for the town to know exactly who the 65 people are. It's public record. And I think that could make a lot of sense, and it would clean up. And as Pam said, when you do come down, there's actually room to enjoy the beach.
And the biggest wrinkle in that simple solution is,
It's always
The devil's in the proverbial.
is the, from my perspective anyway, is that in the busy area of the beach, between,
Dinghy.
yeah, from Dinghy to,
Yeah.
well, there's two issues, I think, and we don't have to solve this tonight, of course. But that is, the trust owns a chunk of land, and they have been very welcoming to anyone, as long as they're not in the dunes, to put stuff. So that's, I don't know, 10 lots or something like that in the most crowded area. And the second is Dinghy Point, which
Right, has some history.
which has some history, and the town has a position that storage of watercraft is,
But if we did clean up everything else,
but most of the problem is in the
much of it
town,
is,
in
agreed,
the
agreed.
lots in front of, from the tides to Proctor, and over towards, what's the street?
Broadway?
Broadway, thank you.
Broadway or
Yeah.
into the river. But I don't think that I don't see that the trust, I don't understand that that really would be a major issue if the committee were to feel a certain way. I think that's something that could be worked out with the trust, is just my assumption. But Dinghy Point is so named because it was really solely at the time, when I was growing up, was the place for dinghies of backlot folks and folks that were moored in the channel between East Fair to access their boats, because they didn't have a place on the rocks in front of their shorefront lot. So I don't think that's a problem to get that to be dinghies for access instead of kayaks and paddleboards.
Except
Again.
that the ordinance says watercraft and the beach use
It's a
agreement.
wonderful thing about ordinances. And this would take an ordinance change anyway, most likely. So this would be something we need to move forward with wording that would codify the purpose of Dinghy Point and the new rules of watercraft storage. So this would be a process. This wouldn't be a decision on our part. It would have to be, I believe, town-supported in order to get the police with the authority to be able to truly enforce it as well. So it's a bigger package.
Yeah, I mean, John had suggested to me that if there were an ordinance that cleaned this up, so to speak.
Yeah.
and was clear, then the police would feel,
I believe that's the case. I
Yeah.
can't speak for the police, obviously, but
Right.
I think it would make it
Right.
much cleaner and more obvious what to do, yeah.
I think it's worth the effort, and I agree it's complicated and it's not gonna be easy. But we had a beautiful beach at one time, and kayaks are used probably 10% of the time, and 90% of the time they sit on the beach.
They're stored.
Yeah, they're stored where somebody else could,
1% of the time?
there
Yeah.
you go.
yeah.
And I'm all in favor of keeping our beach beautiful. And I'm a big trek it in, trek it out person. We do it down at the West End, and Conservation Trust does it on their properties, right? And I'm willing to put the effort in to clean it up.
So do you want to be on a little subcommittee to come up with a
Oh,
proposal?
I knew you would say that. Come up with,
Well,
I'll be part- I'll
we
be-
need a proposal. We need to, go through the issues and, come up with a straw dog that we can take a look at and see whether,
I'm happy to help. I don't want to be holding the bag for the whole thing, but
I
other
will
people.
help, but I can't commit to do it all. I just,
John does nothing in his
Just
free
nothing,
time.
but I'll work with you guys.
Yeah, okay, that's fine, yeah.
I think it's
Interface
something
with
we
the
should
town.
do.
Collaborative effort,
That's
yeah.
what I'd like to do, yeah.
I'd be happy
Yeah,
to.
okay, perfect.
Yeah, I'd like to see it happen. The other concern I have, just from, God forbid we get a large storm in the summer, when those kayaks are there, they will take out the dunes.
Yes,
They
will.
become augers and will just chew up the heck, anything that's not fastened hard to the rack, and even that, those kayaks, if you get a big storm, that rack won't hold them, the whole thing will wash up there. And it would be devastating to the dunes,
Even more
Doug,
reason
you
to
want to
do
be on the
it.
committee?
yeah.
Any comments?
We do have a hand raised on Zoom.
Let's take that. Thank you.
And you can speak when you unmute yourself.
Okay, I'm just wondering if you're going to regulate the beachfront owners storing things on their 25 feet.
Well, the suggestion that was just made, and it was just a suggestion, of course, was that because they have a contractual right to do that, that we give them stickers annually, and they could affix them to their watercraft.
Store them in the
And-
25.
Yeah, and store them
On their property.
on their property, not in the dunes, hopefully, if there are those with dunes, but most do not have dunes. Does that answer your question, Ann?
Well, I'm just thinking that if a property owner has the right to that 25-foot strip, why should they need to have a sticker? If they aren't complaining about kayaks, or if they've given permission to somebody to have a kayak in front of their home and it's their strip to keep chairs or whatever, why would they need a sticker?
Help the police.
It would just help enforcement. There are some properties, and I think if the police have received complaints from someone who says there's kayaks in front of my house and they don't belong to me and they were not invited, I think the police help them out, have been able to help them out, because that's very clear. But it's the properties where they're piled up. The owner may not be in residence the entire summer. I know several houses like that. They just live there off season. And there are, lots and lots of kayaks that get piled there, and the person has not given permission, but there's no one there to enforce it. So the stickers would facilitate enforcement. That's the
Got
thought.
it. Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Ann.
Thanks, Ann.
Thanks for coming. Anybody else? Anybody else in the room with a
All
question?
hands raised.
Doug, did you want to volunteer for that committee? Is that what I heard?
I'm thinking about it.
We'd love to have you.
Okay.
I'd be willing to help out.
Was that Fred?
Who was that?
It's Fred, it's
Oh,
Fred.
Hi,
Hi,
Fred.
Fred.
Okay, I'll remind us on
Thank you,
open
Fred.
public meeting rules that if more than two of us get together,
Oh, that's the problem.
we
that's a good-
will, you can do that, but we'll notice it, someone needs to tell the town the meeting's going to happen at the location, and it has to be publicly noticed. So you could meet at the trust, or you could meet at somebody's house, but we just have to publicly notice.
Yeah,
it.
okay.
And it really does help to have folks that don't sit on the committee to be involved, because
Yeah.
then we can get stuff done without having to
Right,
call
do
a
that.
public meeting every time we
Exactly.
talk.
Exactly.
And John, the other town-related issues, we
With
dealt
the
with.
tides, yeah.
Yeah, to some extent, and Justin was here, and that was
Yeah, she's
helpful.
there, yeah.
But I think what I was specifically asked was to see if indeed the town had made an arrangement or an agreement with the owners of the tide that would permit busing of customers, of folks from Hidden Pond to the tides. And in speaking with Lori, there is no such agreement that she's aware of. So that's basically my report on that.
Thank you for checking out. I think Justin had said it was his understanding that he could bus people, the collection could bus people from Hidden Pond, but not from any place else.
Correct.
And now we know there's no agreement.
There's no
About the
written, there's
issue
no
at all.
written agreement in that,
Right.
to that effect.
So is there an issue in that the town is allowing him to do it from Hidden Pond? And should he decide he wants to do it from other properties that they own? Nick just, well, I've been doing it all along and I've got a right? Is that a concern?
I don't know if I'm enough of a lawyer to answer that.
I'm looking at
Well, no one
Paul.
here is that.
It may just need a little bit more understanding.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, and Justin was supportive, I think it would be nice to have a best practices commitment from the tides, particularly with respect to the use of the beach, so that, and they don't seem to be doing this, they seem to have changed their practice of putting out 50 chairs at 9 in the morning or 10 in the morning,
Right.
and just putting them out for their guests when they need them and take them away when they're not needed. I observed later in the summer after our meetings that they were spreading the chairs out beyond their property onto the right-of-way and onto the next property.
I've seen
Particularly if you
that
had
as
a low
well.
tide morning,
Yeah.
they'd bring them right down to the edge. And to me, that doesn't seem like a very neighborly thing to do.
It's not the spirit.
It's not in the spirit of the use of their property.
Right.
They are a signer of the beach use, agreement, one of the first. So from my perspective, if we could, go in that direction, that would be helpful.
Yeah. I think the other issue too is where the drop-off was, because I think at the last meeting, Justin said it was in the parking lot, and as I've been randomly walking, I've observed some other stops, so.
Yeah, he's committed that they're not, and they've gotten tickets for dropping in front of the building, and they're only, under their practices, and maybe per the chief, is that they're only dropping on the side street. He did say he thought they were pulling into the parking lot, but I don't think that seems to be the case.
I haven't seen that, but I'm not there every day.
Okay, any other comments or questions on that? Then let's go to new business. I'm going to change the order here for a moment because we have a couple of reports. We had asked Lori and the chief for some summer numbers and on parking and violations and things like that. So I will just, so they both sent me information. First, I'll talk about our parking, our sold tickets, our sold parking stickers and what our revenue was this year versus other years. So this year, we generated a total of $268,000, $268,535. That's 17,435 from residents who buy a sticker, or I guess just a sticker. The daily tickets was 170,700. The seasonal, the weekly were 39,000. The seasonal was 41,000, so that's an out-of-towner who buys a full season pass. So there were a total of 10,912 stickers, getting to that $268,000 number. I'll just give you comparisons the past few years. I'm not going to go through all that detail, just the bottom line. And if you have a specific question. Last year, 21, we sold $219,000, 290 versus this year, which was 268 or 58. probably.
219
219, yes.
versus 68, right?
Yeah, so this year was a big jump. Back in 2020, the total was 169,300. And in 2019, pre-COVID, was 195,325. Is that pre-COVID or was that the COVID year?
No, that's
Pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID, yeah, so that was the last
That's
normal year.
amazing. That's amazing.
So we've gone, if you take COVID out, we went from 195,000 to 268,000.
Almost $75,000 increased
Yeah.
revenue.
Now, they increased the prices, I think, but I'm not positive.
25, did we?
The $5 stayed the same for residents.
Yeah, and 20,
But
yeah.
I do, for some reason, I think other prices
I
went
don't
up
remember.
bid, but I,
It's a long,
There's a lot of volume. I don't know if there's that much
Right.
You've got to go
pricing
by
in there.
sticker number. How many stickers
yeah, I'll
did
go
we
through
sell in
the
those
total number of
years?
stickers.
Yeah,
This year, 10,912. Last year, 8,869.
yeah.
The year before, 7,676, and the pre-COVID year was 82. So we dipped
8,200.
8231,
Paul,
yeah.
what I did was I just looked at daily and weekly.
Yeah,
Keep residents out of it, keep seasonal out.
Yeah.
Just, that's your ongoing traffic. And I went pre-COVID, 2019, we were at 5,200, I'm rounding. And then this year, we were at 7,200.
yeah.
yeah.
So like,
So that's apples to apples, other than the
Right.
effect of COVID.
Yeah.
Perhaps more people came. We don't know
That's
that.
a
We
big
only know
increase.
that in other
Well,
years.
they certainly came in 19, they started coming back, but, yeah.
Yeah. But that's a 38% increase in volume,
yeah.
irregardless of price increases.
We do have a cap on the number of parking, so it's not a free system. It's not going to keep shooting
Well,
up.
right.
but-
Right.
But it would
But it's
suggest
being
that
utilized
it would
probably
be
at a higher
utilized more.
rate.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm guessing,
Yeah.
but they had to go somewhere.
right.
yeah, yeah.
And then on the parking violations side of the equation, there were, this year, this is the number of violations, I'll start this year and go backwards. 736 this year, 637 in 21, 885 in 20,
Here it is.
941 in 2019, and 650 in 2018.
We didn't sell many stickers, but a lot of people got tickets. And
Yeah, that's parking.
And,
And
20.
then go up,
It's the same price.
the only other significant amount of tickets were dog violations. This year, 35, the year before, 21. 2020 was 38, 9 in 2019, and 19 in the prior year.
Are those just warnings, or did they pay a fine?
The title is violations, so I'm not sure. That's why you went to law school, Carol.
probably include warnings, I would think.
I think it's
I think that's warnings,
warnings.
those aren't fines.
Yep.
Probably
And-
all warnings.
And to add to that,
Fine them.
Fireworks, one violation versus 3 last year. Warning tags on beach, meaning what we've been talking about. This year, they put 86 warning signs versus 47 last year. There were no fire permit violations issued this year.
I wonder how many permits, meant to ask that when I was at the police station.
many
How are
fire
people
permits?
using after our,
I'll find out.
just curious in the numbers?
Yeah, that's a good question.
You know, with the 250 deposit and then, but but people, I think, have been great.
Yeah, I haven't-
They've been in removable, and I think
so,
that
too.
really worked well.
I do too.
Yeah. That was a good move.
Okay, I think that's everything from the town.
Did they give you a number, the percentage of people that paid?
The person who does that, I think, is out sick. So we do not have this year's
Okay.
tally done on that.
It will
So-
be interesting to see if it continues to drop or not, or if the other years were anomalies. Because way back, it was 93%.
Right.
That's a sizable chunk of lost revenue.
Yeah,
Exactly.
hadn't paid, yeah,
Have not paid.
yeah.
Okay, we'll move on. We had a request from Jack, a resident. Jack, what's Jack's last name? Dahlstedt?
Yep.
He wrote to the committee, he lives on Skyline Drive, and he requested that we put in a second, the town put in a second handicapped access pathway at Broadway. And Broadway, I guess, because that's where he lives, he has someone in the family with a challenge, and he comments that there are a lot of elderly people in the neighborhood too who have trouble walking down through the dry sand down that pathway. That pathway is pretty long. It's one of the longer ones, I would say, longer public ones. It's like probably the same as Dyke kind of distance before you hit the beach. It's very narrow, yeah, so the town took a look at that. It had come in, and we just wanted the town's view on that before this meeting. And it's only, it could not be an ADA compliant walkway because it is so narrow. If you wanted to make it larger, that's a big DEP kind of problem, and they do not look kindly about wider paths. They encourage
Especially straight.
Yes, they discourage straight paths, and they like bends. That one has a curve to it, not significant, but it has a curve to it. So if you put one there, it would have to be much narrower. The wheelchair that we had, the one at the Tides, is about 3 feet wide. So it would be really tight at that entrance. They didn't mention the wheelchair, but I just wanted to see what the width of those wheelchairs are. They do make narrower mats. I've seen, a friend has one off of Ragosa Way. She's very elderly, and her family bought her one, but it's only like maybe 2 feet wide.
And stability would be a real problem in that soft sand.
Well, it's, what the smaller one does nicely is that it does curve.
Yeah.
The particular one that was bought, my concern about the curves was you're going to have gaps between sections that present trip hazards if they're each straight and we're going through various curved areas. So anyway, this is a request to us as a committee. So I'll take any comments, suggestions, thoughts from the committee, if there are any.
I don't have a solution, but I tried to find one. And for pathways, what I saw I Googled it. It's, they're just little strips of wood, they're about 24 inches wide. They have probably a 2-inch piece of wood, then a space, 2-inch piece of wood and a space. They come curved, they come straight. They come in 2-foot lengths, 4-foot lengths, so you could, angle them if you want.
They're rigid.
They're rigid.
Okay, so it's wood on wood,
Yes.
not,
It's not a mat.
right.
I don't know if that would fit that person's needs. That was, I'm certainly not a special on sidewalks, but that was all that I found.
So we'd be asking the town to install these and take them up every
Yeah.
fall,
Like the one we have.
like the one we have now.
What's the distance between these two? The other one's at Edgewood?
I think so, yeah.
Does Edgewood sound right?
So
I
how many
Yeah.
blocks are we between Broadway?
2 or 3, I mean.
can't be more than 3.
Yeah, didn't Lori respond that there was one reasonably close? I
Well,
guess
she did.
reasonably is the
That's the
question.
reason, that's what I said, we're just
Yeah,
asking
and
how
that's the,
far
that's
apart
the
they were.
question, you
Yeah.
know.
Plus, would it need handicap parking each side of it? I mean, do you have a handicap access? I guess you can, it's a little, but we wouldn't want to lose, I mean, if you put more handicap parking in, so I don't know,
Yeah.
it seems problematic.
Thoughts from here? Thoughts from the Zoom room?
No hands raised.
Okay. I mean, I guess, one question is, if we did a second one there, and someone asked for
Now
one
you're
in
gonna have
between,
Yeah,
do we say, well, sure, we should have one at every
right.
entrance where there's an accessibility question?
I'm wondering if we should look, if we're thinking about a second one, we should look at, are there spots where it would be shorter and it might be a little wider to begin with? I mean, that one is really narrow and it is one of the longer ones. Maybe, I don't know whether, it might be the one next to Edgewood, which doesn't buy us anything,
Yeah,
but I don't
is it
know
the
if that's
question-
necessarily the best place to put it.
Or maybe move Edgewood farther away towards the tides, so that you have one within 2.5 blocks of
Right.
all that
Yeah,
area.
yeah, I guess you'd have to
And
really
not two right
survey
next
all of
to each
them, yeah.
other.
But then I think you also have the parking access question, wherever you decide to put them.
Right.
Yeah.
Is there a handicap parking spot at?
Not at Broadway.
The only one, I believe, is by the access ramp.
Right,
Yeah.
which we could move.
Right.
You can move.
Jeffrey's Way is a big road.
There's another one there, yeah.
Jeffrey's Way has a parking spot
A single
as well.
spot.
Yeah, but no,
But no,
right,
Right.
but it's, the path is wide too.
path is
Wider.
wide,
It
yeah.
is.
Yeah,
Yeah, you could probably put an ADA compliant there.
That's a good idea.
and then you have the whole east end, I mean, you kind of have that whole end would be able to access that point.
Well, I think it comes down to why the individual is asking for this. I mean, this individual clearly could have walked the 2 blocks to the other one, so I think this desire was to have it right there. Putting it at Jeffrey's Way, I don't think would answer this individual's concern or request. It might be a good thing to do overall, but I don't think it addresses this individual's needs. I may be wrong.
Right.
What do other beaches do? You know? Public access to their beach? They have paths?
I've been to some that have paths, yes.
Do they? The ADA compliant one?
Multiple paths? I mean, that's the question.
Yeah, I mean, most towns and, public facilities try to have, and in some cases are required to,
Sure.
by state or by ADA, to have access, have reasonable access. So the town probably has an obligation to have some access.
Well, maybe we look and see where there's another place that we can provide. Might not be exactly where the man wants it to be, but
Is
we
there one in
provide.
Bedford Pool?
I'm sorry?
Is there one in Bedford Pool?
And Biddeford Pool where the,
I don't think so, because it drops off so much there, I don't know how you.
yeah, and you
do it.
have a stairway too, like to
Yeah.
get where the surfers go.
Yeah,
That's really the only area that I can see.
I don't know one at Mother's or Kennybunk, but I may be wrong. There may be stuff there. I can't picture it. But then again, that's the beach, that's
Yeah, it goes down.
Right.
a wall. It's not soft sand.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah, I was just at Jersey beaches where they've rebuilt after Sandy, and they built these enormous dunes in order to save these neighborhoods for some period of time. but they've built, they've styled them so that there are big ramps up and
Flyovers, yeah.
yeah, and they're huge
Yeah.
because the height is so big that the ramp, so they're all accessible now. And I'm sure they're compliant
Yeah,
with ADA
it's a
for.
marvelous thing, yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe we should talk to the town about possibly moving Edgewood so it's not so close to this one, and maybe doing a second one, so there's better coverage at the beach. You know, so there's a,
I think Lori would say if that's what the committee feels we should do, you can certainly recommend that to the
Yeah.
town.
yeah,
Yeah, but yeah.
Do you think we would use one at Jeffrey's Way? A mat?
yeah, the problem that they have, the problem with mats, and it's a huge deal at Jeffrey's Way, is all the shoes that are left and all the flip-flops that are left. There's always complaints at the Edgewood one that they can't get a wheelchair down because they have to, you know, it's being blocked by, or I guess just people walk down and don't want to kick shoes out of the way. At where I go down at Jeffrey's, the path is wide enough that everybody puts them to the side and not, you know, not in the middle, which was kind of common sense, but I guess some people don't have it.
But I think if you're going to look at a second, the fact that there is a handicap spot on Jeffrey's Way would, I think, make that a logical place for another mat if the committee felt we should have two mats. It gives you good separation and access to a handicap parking place.
I think you do.
But the question is, do we really feel we need a second
Right.
handicap access?
I don't know.
Do you want to tell Jack that we talked about this and we're thinking we didn't want two so close together to each
Okay.
other? And what would you think about one at the other end of the beach? You know, at Jeffrey's?
I will, I think.
Would that
sure.
accommodate him, or would that,
I think it's
not help
John
him?
does, but I think I'll be happy to write.
it's John what?
I think, like John does, that he needs it right near his home, but I will. Jeffrey's Way.
His home is on Skyline, nearly up to Summer Breeze Lane, and it's right at the corner, so it's quite a ways up.
Right.
Whether it's Jeffrey's Way or Broadway, I don't know if it would make any difference. And have you ever seen a wheelchair on, I mean, they're there infrequently.
Yeah, no, I mean, it would be a long haul if you walk down Skyline on the dirt road to get down there. I mean, so you'd have to, I think you'd have to drive, so the parking spot, I think, is relevant.
But I've never seen someone in a wheelchair at that property.
No, I haven't either.
He said in his letter, I'll just go, what he asked, he said, I have several elderly family members and a nephew with some challenges that make it difficult to get through the access point easily.
Yeah,
So-
and I think in where the existing handicap pad is, there's more than one parking handicap
Yes.
spot.
Yeah, I think there's two,
There.
yeah.
Is there one on either side?
Yeah.
There's one on each
Three.
side. Yeah, it's at least two, you're right, there may be, I
Yeah.
think, but it's at least two.
Right, but those we could move if we were moving toward the tides.
Right.
Good.
We could-
Are there any other access paths? I don't know what Proctor would be.
I think we should look at all of them, because you've got the width and the depth, you know, like, to me, you want to be closer to the beach, like, if the length of it, to me, is really important, so maybe we just need to do a broader survey and see what is feasible, or maybe it's not, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Broadway is particularly long,
Yeah,
which would be more bucks, of course.
yeah.
Another ad hoc committee.
What?
Another ad hoc committee.
I'll do a survey if someone else.
I'll write the letter.
Yeah. No,
I'll provide you the ortho and the DEM.
well, I'll just get out my Google map and measure the
That's even
distances.
better.
Yeah,
I'll report back on that.
okay.
Pauline Corby has her hand up again.
Okay, Ann, come on.
Hold on 1 sec. My mouse is
Thanks,
not
Dave.
working. And you can unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. If we're going to have handicap access, shouldn't we also have handicap parking places near those access points?
We all agree
One
with
or-
that.
Sure.
Has that ever been looked at? Because I don't think we have any.
Yes, we do.
Oh, no, we
We
do. There are two next to, at least two, there may be a third, but I know there are at least two that are juxtaposed, one each side of the current mat that goes onto the beach. And there is also
Oh,
one,
good.
there's also one on Jeffrey's Way.
That's right.
And there's one.
All right, great. I hadn't noticed that.
And there's
Yeah.
one at Dyke
Are they,
Road.
Yes, and there's one
The
at
fourth
Dyke.
spot.
Right.
okay, thanks. I'm sorry I didn't notice
No,
that.
that's good. Thank you. Good thought.
Anybody else? Okay, we'll move on then. We had a member resign between last meeting and this meeting, Tom. And so there's a vacancy. This is an oceanfront spot. The governing documents don't have any process in them for replacement. What do you do in the case of a vacancy? And that I have just emailed with Lori, and she believes, based upon a conversation with town council, that the town could appoint somebody to that spot on an interim basis until next June, when we had a regular election, and replace the person. And she used as her example of a similar situation as the school board. If there's a school board vacancy, which is an elected position, if there's a vacancy, the Board of Selectmen apparently can appoint. I'm not sure it's entirely analogous. So I bring it up to inform you of this and to get any comments, concerns about this from you folks.
If the Board of Selectmen are going to appoint someone, are they required to have it be a beachfront person?
That would be my view.
Okay, no, that was my assumption too, but
Well-
it wasn't clear.
Yeah, they posted a notice that didn't say that, which may have been confusing to you.
Well,
Yeah.
it didn't say they needed to be a beach use agreement signature. They do have to be that for sure. But I would suggest that because it is an interim position, and it's important for us just in our numbers to be able to get quorum when we need it, that it would, to me, be reasonable to have any, well,
Any
I'm sorry.
signer?
Yeah, but the signers are always front lot, aren't they, by definition?
Well,
you got the back.
165 in the back.
All right, good, so they're
And
considered the signers,
65
great.
in the front.
Yes, so I think anyone who has signed I would suggest should be eligible for the interim position. Obviously, when it comes time to elect someone, then it should fill according to, the quota required. What do you think?
Well, I think I'm interested in oceanfront views. I'm a backlotter.
Yeah,
So, there was a particular negotiated balance on this committee for, which people fought hard for.
and for elected positions, that makes sense.
Yeah,
But this is an interim fill until June.
right, but I'm not, this my own view, having been in the trenches a decade ago when this was
And
started.
scarred.
And scarred, yeah.
Yeah,
forever.
fair.
Was that the agreement was a negotiation between all of these property owners and the town as a
Right.
result of a bunch of disputes.
Right.
And the town got its rights and all the property owners got their rights. And included in that bundle of rights was the right to elect representatives.
Right.
So it would be like the other side in a lawsuit being able to come in and say, oh, there's a vacancy now, so even though we're on the other side of the table, we get to appoint your representative.
And
So-
that's fair. And if it were for a longer period, I'd be more sympathetic, but we're talking 9 months. But
Yeah.
that's fair.
How serious is it? So we need, normally it's 7, we're down to 6.
No, we are 4 plus 2 plus.
No, but it's for a
Two.
quorum.
Quorum.
Oh, I'm sorry.
For a quorum, you need 4.
Doesn't it
So it's
state-
4 out of 6
Right,
instead
but
of
there-
4 out of 7.
Yeah, there are also another requirement which says that in order to have any action, you need a majority of the members, not the members present. So you need, in order to do any business, so if we were going to recommend signage, for example,
Right. You need 4.
you need 5. You have to have a majority, 8 people on, you need 5 to transact business.
And how-
You only need 4 to have a quorum, but you need a
A super
majority.
quorum.
You need a super quorum, in effect.
Yeah, to be able to do anything.
Okay.
Paul, I think
It's interesting.
Do you want to go to the,
Yeah, yeah.
No, just, I believe the ordinance requires 5 for a quorum. Might want to check that.
It is
Yeah.
the super, yeah.
but I'm very sure it's a majority of the entire board
You wanted to
for a
get at least
vote,
to
not
get
for a
2
quorum,
fronts,
there's a
2
difference.
backs, and then
But-
a
For a
decision.
quorum, you have
There were 8,
I believe
I
you
just
have
thinking
to
there were
have
7. There's
Okay.
2.
So one option would be, and obviously, because we have so many oceanfront owners on the committee, we sometimes struggle to find members. So finding new members is a matter of us going out and knocking on doors or making phone calls to try to,
In
So
winter. Yeah, in
in
winter.
the winter.
Not a lot of people around.
So one option would be to say, okay, town, you can appoint, but you, like everything else in the agreement, need to get the advice of the committee first. So the committee would recommend a person to them. And if
It
there were
would
2
be
people,
wonderful if we could
Yes.
find a
Yes.
beachfront owner, and for no other reason, that when it does come up in, whenever it is for
Right,
renewal, that
right.
that person's sort of entrenched and
Hopefully,
would
hopefully,
run.
would,
Right.
I
And there's a
totally agree.
continuity, and
Yeah.
it's a good opportunity.
It's certainly optimum if we could get that, no
Right.
doubt about it.
We
Yeah.
should try.
I mean, the agreement is very specific about who's on the committee. And if you put another backlot owner on it, you're not following the agreement.
That's
Right.
That's right.
And it could come back to bite.
And why
You never know.
create, all right, well,
Yeah.
again, my thought, good, if we can find a.
Sure.
Let's do it. Let's do it, absolutely.
So I guess I would make a recommendation that we ask the town to appoint after advice from this committee in terms of a person. That would be my recommendation.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, and the idea being, we're gonna try and find an oceanfront one. If we can't, then we may come back with another idea, but at least we can start there.
Right.
Because I think that keeps the essence
Yeah.
of what the agreement is
Right.
intact.
And I think if we make a recommendation, it's not going to cause a controversy by the town appointing somebody and, who it wants, as opposed to, town can make the appointment, but they should come to this committee. There are lots of items in the agreement where they can't do something unless they seek our advice first.
Yeah.
That's basically the way the
Exactly.
agreement is structured.
So why would this be any different? So I
Right.
guess would be important.
Yeah,
Right,
I think it's probably a fait accompli on that thing, but I think we ought to still state it.
okay.
Yeah.
Is there a second?
second.
Second.
Any other discussion? Any discussion from anybody in the virtual world?
No hands raised.
Okay. So all in favor of that, raise your hands. That was unanimous. Thank you. I will send something off to Laurie on that. We already had the status report from the town on various policing issues. That's all of the new business that I had reported. Is there any other that anybody wanted to bring up, either on the committee or anyone else?
Not I.
I don't see any in the room. Are there any hands up?
No hands up.
Okay, then the only other thing we must do is set our meeting dates. I would like to tentatively schedule them from now through May, say. Which months do we want to meet? We're kind of locked into this Monday night timeframe. We could, vary the time by, we could go to if 6, like Paul was in court today, he thought he was going to be able to get out, and then he was not able to. I got a text, right? So we could consider, I could ask him, but we could consider going a little bit later, 6:30 or 7, if it's material to him. Some people have these day jobs, and they interfere with this. Does anyone mind me asking Paul if he cares on that?
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. It doesn't matter to me.
Oh, happy to help.
Okay. And this is October. Shall we meet, whoops, I just had my calendar out. Does anybody have a calendar out?
Yeah, so,
The same time, the question is November, December. Do we meet? Do we not meet? This third week in November is Thanksgiving week.
Yes.
The third week in December is a full week before the holidays. I don't know when the Jewish holidays are this year, where they fall.
I would suggest November, or maybe we fool around with the date and then skip December, because I feel like we have some momentum on some of these projects if we can keep going, especially the signage and the communication stuff. I think that's going to take some time to get together, and the more we can keep rolling on that, I think it'd be
So
better.
like try the end of November, like go to the following Monday? We'd have to check with the town. This is kind of the third Monday is our slot. David, do you know if anybody else is Monday nights?
Conservation Commission.
Okay.
I'm not sure which Mondays.
They just met.
They're meeting tonight at the police department.
Oh, okay. Did they just meet last week too? I saw something.
I have no knowledge.
Okay. So let's try for the 28th. Does that work for people?
That's the fourth Monday. You
Yeah.
want to do that?
I can't do it.
Yeah,
I can't do the 28th.
we
Okay.
saved the third Monday.
21st, I think, is the third
Right.
Monday of
Our
November.
tech guys are weighing in on their availability. That's always a factor too.
21st is the only day.
Okay.
That works.
Works for me.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I can do solo the 28th if necessary.
Well, the 21st is our date, so we don't have to check with anybody. We'll
Right.
just let the
Right.
town know.
Right.
And then, let's skip December, obviously. And
I don't have a January.
what's your thought? Do you want to meet like January and March?
That makes sense.
January.
Yeah, the
sounds
third
good.
Monday in January, I think, is Martin Luther King Day, so we may have to.
It is Martin Luther King, and we're very bad at hitting those Monday holidays, which it's always seemed to be in the third.
For reasons.
Yeah, and I can't do the 16th. I would be gone, but you can still meet, of course.
23rd, we could ask for it.
Right. How about you guys? 23rd of January?
I don't have a calendar that far ahead.
Okay.
Shows good judgment. Yeah.
That works for me.
Technically, yes.
Okay.
And what are the rules if we can't be here? I probably won't be.
The rules, if you
can
can't
send
be
in-
here, are that you send the chairman a note saying that you are out of town, personal or business reasons, and you can then join by Zoom. Like Fred gave me a note today, and
Perfect.
Paul was going to join after court today, but then he had to.
Yep, that's fine.
March would be the 20th if we stuck to the 3rd.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to stick to the 3rd if we
I
can.
think so too.
So let's go March 20th,
Yeah.
which is,
So what are they doing in January? 23rd, 3rd? Okay.
and then May would be the 15th. What's the 14th? Was that, no, it's Mother's Day. Is the 14th? 15th. Shall we do that?
You skipped April?
Yes. And then if we need to put one in April, because
You
of,
can always add.
we can add. Okay, so that is
Good.
November,
back
January,
to,
March, May.
And you're going to check on the time for the start time?
yep.
Okay.
So it's the 21st of November, the 23rd of January, which we have to check on, March 20th and May 15th. Okay, great, thank you. And if there's nothing else from the committee, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor, raise your hands. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming, audience.
Thank you.
Thank you.